Let's now protect our WebSocket API Gateway. So open your API Gateway, click on Authorizers, and here click Create Authorizer. We can see that we are asked for an authorizer name and for a Lambda function, which will handle that authorizer, and also for a Lambda invoke role, because this gateway needs to be able to invoke the Lambda function. So let's start doing all of these things. So firstly, let's open Lambda and of course create a function. Let's call it, for example, tic-tac-toe authorizer. And for this, let's use Node.js because I think that it will be easier in Node, and we can just click Create Function. Later, we will code this function, and then we can add other things. So let's open Identity and Access Management to do this second part to create this Lambda invoke role. So we need to go to Roles, click Create Role, and here the use case is API Gateway. So this will be our service. Click Next. For now, just click Next, and later we will modify these permissions. And role name can be, for example, invoke AWS Lambda from API Gateway. I will copy-paste it to the description as well. Click Create Role. Now find this role, so invoke AWS Lambda from API Gateway. Open this, and here in Permission Policies, I want to remove this Amazon API Gateway push to CloudWalk HLogs. I don't care about this. But what I want to add is attach policy AWS, Lambda full access, add permission, and now we need to copy this, and we can go back to our authorizer. Refresh this page so authorizer name can be tic-tac-toe authorizer, Lambda function should be tic-tac-toe authorizer, and here in Lambda, invoke role copy this ARN for your role invoking the AWS Lambda from API Gateway. So with this API Gateway will be able to invoke our Lambda function. And for identity source type, let's choose query string.
For key write, authorizer. Click Create Authorizer.
Now let's go to routes, and here in Connect, we want route request to edit it. And here we can add authorization to be tic-tac-toe authorizer and click Save Changes. Yes, we will just secure our Connect API, but it is completely fine because nobody is able to click on GameClick if he is not connected. So it is completely okay just to protect our Connect route, and we are able to deploy our API, click production, deploy, and I think that even now our application, when we log in, will not work. And yes, our user tried to connect, but he's not able to connect. WebSocket connection failed, authentication failed. Let's now work on this and add code to our function AWS Lambda tic-tac-toe authorizer. For that, I will copy-paste some code and I will explain what it is. We need to have some response object and we will return it, and within that response there is just one principal in, which is not important. Here's a policy document version which is not important, and here is a statement which is interesting. So action, I want to be able to invoke some API.
Right now, the effect is set to deny, but we plan to change it to allow in a moment.
And resources, ARN AWS execute API, then select your region, and my region is Stockholm, which is EU North 1, so I will write this EU North 1. Account ID, you can find it here. So on the top right corner, here is an account ID, copy it. And then you need your API Gateway ID. So it is here, APIs, and you can find an ID here. So copy this one. And then it is production/connect because in our API Gateway, if you click on stages, it is /production. We can deploy it. But of course, because here it is deny, if I again try to reconnect, nothing will happen because still we are denying access. That authorizer will not allow anyone to go to the connect. So what can we do next? Let's modify this to be allowed. Let's write out response, and then we need to access this policy document, and then we want to access this statement, and statement is array, and we want to grab the first element in this array. So let's grab it. Statement on zero effect. And then let's set it so that this is allow, deploy this, and now let's test our application. Still, it doesn't work. And what is the problem? We specified in our authorizer here that we need to have some query string with authorizer, and because of that, let's go to our text editor, and here instead of creating a new WebSocket on this URL, let's modify it and add question mark
Authorizer is equal to 123.
And do the same here down and reconnect, because sometimes you will need to reconnect. Authorizer, for example, 123 again. Save it, and now let's try moment of truth. Still doesn't work. Okay, I found what is the problem. It is not this line that I wrote, export handler. It is export const handler equal to async. I will remove old line and just update first line to be this one. And click deploy. Now, if we go to our Chrome, we are able to refresh and we are able to establish a connection. Of course, it is not that interesting because still it is just allowing everyone. So let's add a few lines of code. For example, if event.queryString parameters, authorizer is equal to something secret, then I want to set this to allow, so we are grabbing information about authorizer. And if we click deploy, of course, now we will not be able to connect. So now let's go again to our code, and here instead of writing that authorizer is equal to 123, write something secret and the same for reconnect. So here, and here save this and see our Google Chrome again, we are able to establish connection. It works, but still it is not best practice to have something secret. Actually, we want to use JSON Web Tokens, and it is the subject for the next video.